If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum leadership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. I love Anchor because it's really easy to use, very accessible to record your podcast, and has excellent sound quality. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello, I am Jennifer Lynn Purcell, aka Opportunity Butterfly, bringing to you a living with an invisible learning challenge where we will discuss the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD. I don't know if you're a new listener or not, but I would like to share with you where I get most of my articles for this podcast. I've recently learned about a nonprofit that I would really like to help. It's the NVLD project. In addition to doing research on NVLD and working to get it back on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that is the DSM, they provide support groups for those with NVLD. You can find the NVLD project at www.nvld.org. All proceeds from this podcast and the ads will go towards the NVLD project. I will include the link for this in the description of the podcast. Please go to livingwithnld.com to learn more about my podcast. Also, I would like to announce that I now have created a YouTube channel for this podcast. I will post the link for this in the description for you. I would like to announce that the 8th podcast Zoom chat with NVLD people from the audience will be on July 17th, and I'm switching it to Facebook instead of Zoom because with Facebook Messenger you can do rooms and you can do video chats on there, and you don't have to be concerned about the time limit, which is easier than Zoom because once you set a time limit, you are kind of limited and sometimes they kick you out of the room. So I am switching into Facebook so that doesn't happen. That way it's easier with the time limit on that. And so again, the 8th one will be on July 17th and it will be at 10 a.m. Pacific time zone. And if you would like to attend it, please go to Living with NLD Facebook page and respond to the event on there for July 17th. And let me know that you are coming. That way I can send you the invite on that day. And I hope to continue to see new people come to that little group chat because I do enjoy creating a safe space for people with NLD to talk about things that they would like to discuss. And I am really enjoying learning more about NLD and being able to support people with it. And I've been enjoying doing that for 8 months now with this little group. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Okay, so today's episode will be about family photos and trying to do poses with NVLD. So recently, my family went to Balboa Park to get our family photos done. It was hard for me to take photos because of the posing and because it was my first time doing it when I was aware of NLD. I've done family photos before, but I didn't know I had NLD then, so I wasn't aware of what my challenges were. This time was different because I was aware. I had to have help with posing from the photographer who didn't know why I had a challenge with it. She just thought it was hard for me to get loose. That's partly true, but it depends on the situation. I can have fun and be loose when I want to. she only knew this because my brother had told her that about all of us. And when I'm talking about having fun and being loose, I'm talking about being able to relax in a situation like taking photos and just be yourself and, you know, be who you are in the photo and look natural. And sometimes that's hard for me to do. And that's probably because of NLD. So the photographer didn't know I have NLD, but with some of the poses, my brother had to help me because I didn't quite know how to do them. It was a little embarrassing, but I tried to get over that because she wasn't making a big deal of it, thankfully. Once I was used to some of the poses and laughing, it was easier to do the pose for the picture because it wasn't natural. It wouldn't be natural unless I was a neurotypical or was really good at doing it. Since posing is part of nonverbal language, it's hard for me to duplicate because I don't know what it conveys. I did have a lot of fun taking pictures with my brother, my dog named Truffles, my mom, my dad, and my grandma. But I'm not sure who had the most fun with. Maybe my brother, because we pretended to dance part of Soldier Boy just for kicks. I also got to do some hair flips, and I'm surprised that and glad my glasses didn't come off while doing them. It was fun with Truffles because she was such a good girl all day, but at the same time, she was like, when are we going to be done? And some of them, I think she was thinking, okay, mommy, I love you, but this is too much for me. I'm the only one in my family who is photogenic. My mom said she would rather be getting a root canal or giving birth than getting pictures taken. It was fun posing with her because we got to ones that looked like sorority sisters and showed our love for each other. And I'm lucky to have a good relationship with my mom and my dad, which I know isn't true for all adults or young adults, but it is true for me, and I'm glad that's true. So it was also fun with my grandma because she is beautiful no matter what age she is. I will cherish every moment I get with her, especially since she's my last grandparent. I love you a bushel and a peck around the neck, Grandma. It was very funny with my dad because he and I are very alike. I'm basically the female version of him. My brother is the male version of my mom, and he has some characteristics of my dad and him as well. I also have some of my mom and me. It was fun with dad and I because we did it with a plant, which was by my head in the photos a lot. I was okay with that because I love Mother Nature. But it was kind of cute because my dad was trying to get the plant out from behind my head, and I was like, Dad, I don't care. I like Mother Nature, remember? So we were kind of cracking up about that part. So it was cute to see my brother and grandma take photos because they used a scooter as a prop. I think they came out really cute. Basically, they were trying to ride, or they were pretending to ride the scooter, which was kind of cute. And just seeing their facial expressions that they used, like, oh my God, we're going too fast, or something like that. So, I think we all have, oh, okay, I was just reading over the sentence. I think we all have a little fun to different degrees because of our love or hate with our photo being taken. I can relate to this article from the NVLD project, how understanding multiple intelligences can help people with learning disabilities by Michelle, who, quote, has a learning disability but has not let it stop her from being successful. She has been published in the Mighty Imagine the World as One magazine and the Reluctant Spoonie. She wants to educate, empower, and encourage people with and without disabilities, end quote. Another quote from the article: interpersonal intelligence is the ability to identify the emotions, feeling, moods, and the motivation for actions of others. People who have interpersonal intelligence can read facial expressions and body language. Individuals with interpersonal intelligence have good people skills and are good at motivating and leading others. I am good at gagging how others are feeling based upon facial expressions and body language. Sorry, gauging, not gagging. I remember when my grandparents were sick and I had limited communication skills. I could tell what they wanted. Part of this was reading their facial expressions and also being able to understand mumblings. I had fluid in my ear as a child, and much of what I heard was muffled. I knew my grandmother was thirsty when she puckered her lips together. She smiled gratefully and thanked me when I handed her a glass of water. End quote. So I can relate to this article, which is talking about the 8 different kinds of intelligence. And I will, as always, give you the link to the article so you can read more about it if you want to, because it is really interesting. I didn't know there were 8 different kinds of intelligences. I actually didn't know how many there were. So as I've gotten better at reading emotions over time, with being able to pay attention to facial expressions, I've talked about this before on the podcast. I think I got better at it because I naturally really like to help people, and I wanted to figure out how to help them even more and in different ways. I started doing this with my family because it's easier to do things around them than with people who don't know about me having NBLD. Because if I was looking at somebody for a while, they might be wondering why I was doing that. It could creep them out and be like, why is she staring at me when I'm trying to understand their facial expression? I guess that's why I try to do it in a subtle way so nobody knows what I'm doing, which sometimes can be tricky for me to do because I often wonder what other people are thinking about me, and that's hard for me to turn off. Although I will say this, I usually care more about what my close friends and family think about me than everyone because they're more important to me. Plus, those are usually the people that know more about me in NLD because they have known me longer than others have. And I usually share things more with my close friends than I do with people that I'm just starting to get to know. So that's also part of that. So since COVID, facial expressions have gotten definitely harder for me to read because of mask covering half of the face. I have to try to figure out what eye expressions would match up with a smile, frown, anger, surprise, fear, or embarrassment, etc. This isn't easy to do because the eyes don't always match with the mouth. And even when they do, you may not know if you're reading them correctly. So I think I talked about this exercise that I had to do for the testing with NLD before. And I'm going to talk about it again with this episode because it's a good example of facial expressions. Let me see if I can describe it correctly. So basically, I had to listen to an audio of a conversation of two people, and all I had was the audio. I didn't have any body language to watch. All I had was the audio of the conversation. I could re-listen to it if I needed to, but the goal of it too was to try to identify what emotion the people had in the conversation. And that was tricky for me to do because what I was given to look at were just basically emojis, and they weren't labeled with like, oh, this emoji is sad, this emoji is anger, this emoji is surprised, this emoji is scared, this emoji is embarrassment, or something else. And I found myself often saying, I think it's this one, but I don't know, because I didn't know what embarrassment or anger would look like on somebody else's face. And I didn't know what emoji you would use for that. And I still struggle with this, actually. I find myself asking my friends when I text them or when they text me back, if they use an emoji, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't know what that means. And I'm comfortable with doing that because they know I have NLD and they are willing to help me out with it, which I am really glad that they are. And they've helped me understand some of the emojis that I don't know what they mean, like the puppy dog emoji face. And that really helps because when I'm not talking to somebody who, when I'm talking to somebody who doesn't know I have NLD and they use an emoji, then I usually have to Google it to have to figure out what it means because I don't feel comfortable asking them about it because I think they might be like, she doesn't know what that emoji means? She's stupid? Um, so like she's not in sort of thing. She's like, that is just the reaction I think they would have, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, so that's something I'm been working on with my friends, and it's been kind of fun actually asking them what the emojis mean and learning new things about them and getting to figure out what they mean and trying to remember what they mean. And it's a little tricky because there's so many of them. And sometimes I'm not even sure if I'm using the right one. And I'm like, is this the right one to use in this case? And they're like, yes, it is, or no, it's not. So that's also helpful because it's displaying a facial expression. And I'm like, I don't know if this is the right one or not. So that is very helpful for me to be able to ask them about that. And I do with my brother too, because he was actually the first one I started doing that with. And that was a fun thing to do, and I'm glad I still can do that. So as I wrap up today, I want to say that whether it's how someone poses for family photos, being silly or having fun, knowing you're beautiful just the way you are, I and others who have NLD still have issues with these today. And I would like to hear from my audience about times you have had challenges with posing for family photos or things similar to doing to that, and that you were trying to have fun with. Like if you were trying to do a new thing, like a new sport, and you didn't think you were going to have fun with it, but you actually did have fun with it. That would be an example. And So please comment with that on livingwithnld.com, or you can email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com, or you can leave an answer on the Apple Podcast. And thank you for listening today. I hope you learned something new, and I will talk to you next Friday. All right, bye. As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than originally it was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.